Hello and welcome to the Backfield, the running back analysis podcast. I'm Big Italy 42. He's Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. Talking about some running backs this week and plenty of guys that are values. So we're going to start by talking about, probably the rookie of the year, or at least in the easily in consideration for it. Todd Gurley facing off against Chicago here. His price has taken a jump. DraftKings slower to catch up to his recent production than FanDuel has been. FanDuel just jumped him all the way up to the top last week. And, he's got that nice high floor that we've seen recently. You know he's going to get about 20-plus carries, probably 80, 90, 100, maybe 3,000 yards, depending on how many times he breaks one. But Todd Gurley, he's about as safe of a play as you can get here. Nice high floor. You just are hoping you get some upside as well since his price is starting to creep up.
Yeah, and I think with the matchup, I think that upside's pretty much likely against the Chicago Bears, although they've kind of limited touchdowns this season. But, still they're allowing, 4.6 yards per carry to opposing backs there. I think the price difference is the biggest thing to talk about here because 7,300 on DK is still not that bad, even though he's the top-priced option, just because so many other options on DK are fairly priced. If you pay up for Gurley on FanDuel, you kind of set yourself back a little bit. I think just with this week, I might fade him, which is tough to say on FanDuel.
Yeah, I'm in that same boat. It's hard to say, but it's with all these value guys we're going to get to here in a second, it always could make almost could make a lot of sense to go with cheaper. Next guy, DeAngelo Williams, facing off against the worst run defense in football, allowing the most yards per game. DeAngelo Williams coming off a great game, and he hasn't even looked good. He's looked great every time he's filled in for Le'Veon Bell early in the season, second half of the Bengals game this past week. So, it's going to be really, really tough to fade him this week. I just don't see any way that I could make a cash game lineup this week and not have DeAngelo Williams in it because I would just feel like you're doing something wrong if you don't do that this week.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Against this Cleveland defense, they've just been awful this season. The guy's a workhorse. Each time he started, they're giving him 20-plus touches, and that's no reason to believe that's not going to happen against Cleveland this week, especially with Landry Jones under center. They're probably going to rely on him a ton. So I think this one's an easy call for the top play of the week here with Williams.
Yeah, factor in price. It's a no-brainer play, really. Another guy we talked about last week, it was kind of a decision for a lot of people between McFadden and DeAngelo Williams. And McFadden's a guy that I know you and I both played a lot, and he had a good game once again, 27 for 117 yards, but no touchdown. Obviously, touchdowns hugely weighted as usual. And unfortunately, McFadden got outscored by some kickers despite a great performance. But this week against Tampa Bay, he's going to get the huge workload. He's been really the only consistent option for that Dallas team the entire time that Tony Romo's been out, or at least until he was thrust in the starting lineup. But he's just a great play at this price tag because he gives you that nice high floor. You don't know that he necessarily has a huge ceiling in this matchup because, it's not the best matchup in the world. But by sheer volume alone, he makes for a really nice cash game play.
Yeah, and I think looking back at last week, Philly's got a pretty decent run defense as well. And Tampa's kind of up along, the defensive rankings with them too. So, with this offensive line and the workload he's going to receive, it's really hard to not like him at this price, especially on DK. We're 4,900. That's a steal, especially where you can roster 3 running backs.
Yeah, I'm absolutely on board with that one. They're going to be a guy I have a lot. Now, unfortunate news for the Patriots, but they've had plenty of good news, so no part of me feels bad for them when they get some bad news. Feel bad for Dion Lewis, obviously, a guy who was kind of, as we've seen him many times, kind of a throwaway player in the NFL, and then the Patriots turned him into a star. LeGarrette Blount, though, the type of guy that when he's in the backfield, he's getting the ball. He's also one of the hardest guys in the league to bring down. It's not a great matchup. The Giants, I can't pinpoint this. We see him look really bad in run defense, then we see him look really good. A lot of it due to matchups, but LeGarrette Blount is a guy that is going to get a big workload. Some talk about some other guys, James White, other people stepping in. I just don't see it not still being the Blount show as far as the volume in that backfield. And we've definitely seen some nice history between Eli Manning and Tom Brady here. So this is going to be a fun game to watch, whether you have LeGarrette Blount or not. But another guy, considering his current price tag, really not a guy that I'm comfortable with fading at all.
Yeah, on DK 4,900, once again, these cheap price tags, it's just tough to choose between all these guys this week. I mean, 31 Vegas total there. Going to be tons of points scored. I think there is a little bit of risk here just because we have seen the Pats kind of go a different route and maybe they throw the ball a ton this week. Especially if the Giants can keep up and put some points on the boards as well. So there is a little cause for concern there with that. But, I mean, at that price tag, I'm not really worrying too much about it.
Yeah, plus, I mean, Blount caught a touchdown pass a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
It took him, almost a decade? I mean, I don't know if it's been quite a decade, but it's been, 7 or 8 years he's been in the league now. Finally caught a touchdown pass, and, I mean, he caught it, and, I mean, I was probably as shocked as he was. I just saw it, I was like, that was not needless to say, I didn't have LeGarrette Blount that week. But I saw him score a touchdown. I mean, stuff starts flying. You just get mad, start throwing your drink, finish the beer first so you don't waste it, but you know how it goes. Lamar Miller next up, a guy who's had huge upside, getting more touches than he was earlier in the season. Still not quite what I would hope or expect out of him as productive as he's been. But Philly's defense here hasn't been bad against the run, really pretty good against the run, but Lamar Miller's a guy who's shown it in the passing game and the running game. When he gets his opportunities, he's had big upside. And Ryan Tannehill has been very inconsistent. He's had his huge games, had his terrible games. So it makes sense that you use Lamar Miller to establish the run and get him involved in the passing game as well. Maybe those short passes help Tannehill get some confidence that would seem like it takes huge highs and huge lows recently.
Yeah. I mean, the matchup isn't great, but it's not horrendous to where I'm fading him completely because, I mean, Lamar Miller is a playmaker. We know what he can do. I mean, the touches have been on the rise, but they're not at that full-level workload that we like it to be. But still, I mean, he's priced entirely too cheap for his upside that we know he can have. And, I mean, if Miami gets this game going, I think you're going to see a ton of points on both sides, actually. This one could be a sneaky one for tournaments.
Yeah, I like this play a lot there. And then DeMarco Murray, like you mentioned there, he's more expensive, but he looks like last year's DeMarco Murray finally. It took him, 8 weeks probably until he finally looked like that. But he's the guy that they thought they were bringing over to be the focal point of that offense. And, I mean, Sam Bradford's shown that he needs it. When DeMarco Murray is successful running the ball, even catching the ball in the passing attack, then it opens up things for Sam Bradford to make less dumb mistakes down the field throwing the football. So DeMarco Murray is a guy, I mean, yardage alone has been really, really good recently.
Yeah, I mean, the matchup's great because Miami's been pretty bad against the run, which has been a bit surprising this season. They're allowing 4.5 yards per carry there. Murray's also working well in the pass game, 18 receptions in the last 4 games there. He's produced 20-plus fantasy points in 3 of the last 4. So, I mean, he's been a lot more consistent from earlier in the season, and they're figuring it out there in Philly.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up, last guy on the board here, James Starks. Finally, you and I were talking a little bit before we started recording here about Eddie Lacy's looked terrible the entire season, just about every single time, even the games where he scored his touchdowns. They were short touchdowns. I mean, he looks out of shape. He doesn't look confident. He's not making good decisions. Finally, now that fortunately for Mike McCarthy has Aaron Rodgers, so it's never really too late. But it's about time that Starks has been named the number 1. He's going to get the bulk of the work. And now he gets rewarded also by an incredible matchup against the Detroit Lions, who, as we know, aren't very good at anything except drafting wide receivers way too high in the 90s.
Yeah. I mean, they ranked 29th in rush defense this season. They've allowed 14 rushing touchdowns, which obviously is the most in the league so far this season. I mean, the Packers are 13-point favorites, so you got to expect Starks is going to get a lot of the workload in the second half. You expect them to be up the entire game. I mean, they have the second highest team total just behind, the Patriots. But I honestly could see maybe the Packers being the highest scoring team of the week.
Yeah, and I mean, now that you have, supposedly a competent running game, you got one of the best, if not the best, quarterback in football. I mean, this team should score a lot of points, and this is a perfect scenario for them to finally get that balance they really haven't had all season with passing and running. And Detroit doesn't seem like they're very interested or capable in stopping either one. So, although they have played Aaron Rodgers pretty tough the last couple seasons, but this is not the Detroit Lions defense that we saw in past years. So, good luck with that, Detroit.
Yeah, I think they're hoping for that number 1 pick. That's what they're gunning for this time.
Yeah, and in all reality, fortunately for them, even if they try, they're probably going to get it anyway because they don't have much competition down there. But enough Detroit bashing for one day. Just play James Starks, get yourself your discount there. That'll wrap things up for the running back analysis on Week 10. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out the rest of our NFL and NBA and every other sport content at dailyfantasycafe.com.